Okay, so today we are talking about The Handmaid's Tale, which was written, I think, in the 1970s.
Yes.
And was made into a Netflix series. It's a classic. Yeah, it's found some purpose in the 21st
Yeah.
century. Yeah,
I definitely experienced, like, while I was reading, I was like, wow, this is like really, really scary because I could totally see this happening.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like Margaret Atwood and Neil Shusterman who wrote Unwind.
Yeah.
It's like they could see what was happening. So, how would you deal with the most difficult crisis the characters face?
So, Alfred, who's our main character, she talks throughout the story about how there's like how the homes that the handmaids get to stay in tend to be reinforced in order to prevent the handmaids from killing themselves because of the way they're treated. Uh, Alfred even considers at the end of the story killing herself because she's afraid of what's going to happen to her if she doesn't. I think, in my personally speaking, I would probably figure a way to kill myself.
Okay, because like you say on your slide here, what makes a handmaid is the ability to bear offspring.
Yes. And a lot of times, actually, all of the time, none of the handmaids are willing participants in being inseminated.
Right. They can't just fall in love with someone and have their child. It has to be a member of the elite.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, speaking of that, how does the interaction between the sexes compare with your own experience?
So it feels very unnatural in the book, but almost robotic, where it feels like interactions between like men and women are always a power play, but also it's the handmaids at least. It's temptation for young men who don't have a handmaid, but then it's also a means of control for the men that do have a handmaid or do have a wife, where it's like a man owns you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, no romance there.
No romance whatsoever.
So women have just basically been, I mean, livestock, quite
Yes.
honestly.
Yes.
Yes.
Their whole purpose is to be bred and then sent off to die, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and their names are even changed. I remember when I read the first one, I thought, I thought, oh, Alfred, that's an interesting name. But then you realize that the off,
Is of Fred. Yeah, I didn't
yes,
realize that until like the end of the
I
book
didn't either.
where they're doing where it's the scientists and the historians talking about it. I was like, wait, we're saying off Fred,
Right.
but it's of Fred, of Gilead and everything like that. And I was like, oh, that was so smart.
Well done, Margaret Atwood.
Yes.
Well done with that one. Because yeah, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting name. And then I was like, oh, she even loses her name. And then were there any descriptions that captivated you?
I think the thing that makes this book is the descriptions in it because especially as a like a woman and everything, you feel like you're off red at times. You feel like you're there. Like at the beginning when you're not quite sure what's going on, and she's describing the gymnasium for the center and everything, and she's like, I can hear the music that would have been playing for a ball, and I can see the low light that would have been there illuminating the space and everything like that, and the screams of children as they play and stuff. It really immerses you just for the bad things that happen to then come like right after, and you're like, oh, okay, was not expecting that.
But by the end, you're like, why? I should have been expecting that, but
Yeah.
she draws you right
Yeah.
in.
She's and then like she really draws you in, and then you're like, how are you? How are you getting through this? Like, what is keeping you alive? It really just takes you from the lowest low and somehow makes it lower.
You did. We're in the basement, and then there are more stairs down.
Yeah.
So you gave us a 5 out of 5, and why did you give it a 5 out of 5?
I give it a 5 out of 5 for a few different reasons. The main one is I don't normally like sci-fi. And this is technically a sci-fi book, even though Margaret Atwood calls it a speculative fiction because it has so many connections to the current state of the world and everything. But I don't normally like sci-fi because I feel like it's not like it doesn't actually reflect current society. This does. And then with the descriptions and everything, you really get immersed in the book, which is hard at times when you're like, I don't want to be reading this and I don't want to be hearing about how you're getting raped.
Yes. Yep. But this is where we are.
Yeah.
And this is banned in many places.
I noticed that.
Why do you think that is?
Probably because of the power plays at hand, like the fact that the United States government gets overthrown for religious cults and stuff. I feel like, especially now with Roe v. Wade and stuff getting overturned, it connects to that where women's rights are being stripped away from them and they're becoming more of a piece of property rather than human beings.
Exactly. Anything else you want to say about the book? Because I could go on all day with you.
I think anyone that wants to have a good fiction book, but also really is into sci-fi or wants to kind of get a better understanding for some of the power plays and some of the politics going on in the world should read this book. It's really captivating.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay, well, thank you for sharing this, and I love that cover. I have not seen that cover of the book before.
Yeah, it's the one. Apparently, it was not released, like officially released for print. But it's the book cover for if you read it on like online through an ebook site.
Okay.
I read that it on Sora, and that's the book cover for.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes.